walk serving Satan, and through the power of the gospel, he was miraculously saved back in 1972. He's been serving the Lord since, and they're under many dangers, many obstacles, has a real testimony of the power of God. He also has an insight into the other side that many of us just do not know, we're not aware of. And many of the things that we take for granted and assume to be harmless are really tools of the devil. And so I'm just going to let Brother Todd come and share with us these things that God has laid on his heart.
All right. I understand that many parents from the school here have been calling their principal with questions about what all took place the other night. I'm sure that teenagers can tell it one way different than it happened, but the report seemed to be very good. I'm glad that I was able, with the testimony that I gave the other day, to touch many of the teenagers' heart. I'm sorry that I won't be here for the fun on Tuesday, which is destroying the record. I got kind of a little, something like a Tonka blast last night. I got to break up a bunch of KISS records. Now, that may seem kind of strange for you. What kind of nut gets thrills from breaking up KISS records? Same kind of nut that gets the same thrills from burning J.R.R. Tolkien books and breaking up Ouija boards. But I came out of a world, which I'll explain about in a few minutes, where these aren't innocent little things, and whether they be in the Christian world or in the witchcraft world, they're still not innocent. They're very dangerous, and they're carefully laid traps to entrap people that the occult has spent millions and millions of dollars to devise. Before I give my testimony, I want to say something real quick. Most people have a kind of elusive idea of what the occult world is, and they miss the whole point of the occult world. It is not just something where witches get together, and there are real creatures or whatever called witches around. It is not a place where people get together and hold seances and float tables all the time and so on. The occult world is a very political and financial world where some of the most influential people in the world today believe that Lucifer is God and the only answer to the world's problems, and they trust the people in witchcraft to be their ministers, and they are just members of the church. I'm going to be talking about an organization called the Illuminati today, so I might as well get that organization out of the way now. There are many people who have discovered the Illuminati in different phases of life, whatever, across the United States. My pastor first discovered them, Dr. Rasmussen, when he dealt with the Masonic lodges. Other people have discovered them in the form of the Catholic Church and in the occult world and the political world and international banking system and many other types of conspiracies that existed. And when they discovered it without knowing any more about it, they thought that's exactly what the Illuminati was, and they ran off and wrote a book on the Illuminati saying this is where it was at. When I came out of witchcraft, I had dealt enough with the Illuminati to know that witchcraft wasn't the total Illuminati. Witchcraft and the Satanist church and the spiritualist church and other things, when they're combined together in higher levels, in lower levels, they're all scattered here and there. They resemble much like the Christian church. They're always arguing amongst themselves. But in higher levels, they're one. And the ministers that are in the higher levels are like the pastor here. He's the pastor, and you're the congregation. You're supposed to be Christians. Most of you are. But you're also mechanics, construction, white-collar businessmen, and so on. Well, in the Illuminati, it's the same way. There are bankers, there are politicians, there are ministers, and so on. But their ministers are the people in higher levels of witchcraft. And I was born into a family that helped create the Illuminati, the Collins family. They were selected just, probably close to 100 years before, over 100 years actually, before the Illuminati became, per se, the Illuminati. They brought witchcraft to the United States. Many of the people that they chose to be their ministers are very famous in the early revolution history of America. I mention names across the United States, and people say, oh no, those were good God-fearing men. And then I start quoting from newspapers in Boston and reports around the revolutionary times where this man was caught doing this and this man was caught doing that. And all of a sudden they don't look too much like three of our most important legendary figures that helped our country be birthed were arrested at one time for human sacrifice, and the charges were dismissed. They had the body, everything. The building they were in doing the right one night caught fire. A bunch of people perished, and they got arrested and so on. And they kind of got out of the charge. You know how it is with important figures. Still had a little pull back then. But this is the world as it really exists, and we're going to be talking about it today. You may think that it's a little different from anything you've ever heard, and I must either be crazy or lying, or I've got a good story or something. And the reason for that is that you sit in front of your television quite a lot, or a lot of most people do, and the television has a very absorbing nature upon people. You begin to accept that what you see on television is reality. And that's the way people are. Across the country, we've named people that are in the occult world that are also on television. In fact, a couple of people I know that I used to have a lot of dealings with when I was in the witchcraft world that are now superstars on TV. And most people can't accept that because they watch them and these are nice, clean-cut figures. Surely from their television shows, that's just the way they are. But it's not so. In fact, just to kind of break the ground, I'll give you an example before I go with the testimony. One of the most powerful witches in the United States is on television. She's a homosexual. In fact, the young lady she lives with in marriage is a very famous rock star. And they thought it was very unjust of witchcraft that homosexuals weren't allowed to be ministers in witchcraft. I think they were smarter than the Christian church. But, so they decided that that was unfair. So they formed their own denomination, or as we call it in witchcraft, a brotherhood for witches and for homosexuals that are witches. Now this nice, clean-cut American girl has one of the top situation comedies on television. Most people watch it on Tuesday night when they don't have anything else to do, like pray. It's called Laverne and Shirley, and the girl's name is Cindy Williams that plays Shirley. Now that's the real world out there. It's not the world that you see on television. So today, if I say a few things that are astonishing to you, I say these things across the country, and so many people have blitzed these poor people with tapes till they're running out of their ears of these things I said. I have ended up in court because usually I quote actual news releases and statements made to the public that most other people don't catch, or I quote knowledge in the past that I can prove. So believe me, I get up here and I say the things that can be proven, and I'm very careful of what I say. So you think about it for a while. So at least do this. Most people that hear me, that can't accept me, decide they're going to go prove I'm wrong because they can't stand what I said. It just will shatter their lives, I hope. And so they run out and they go to all the libraries and they try to prove against what I say. Then I get my strongest believers after that. Because when you go to the libraries and you go to the book stands and you start buying books and you start researching the things I'm going to say today, something very mysteriously happens. You find out I'm telling the truth. It's all there. So I invite you to go spend a few hours, turn off the television, and do some prayer, and do some reading of the Word of God, and do some reading of other books when you leave here today, and you might find out what's really, really happening today.